So while editing this video, I noticed that some of my grammar is crap. I'm very sorry for those grammatical errors. I noticed them while I was editing the stuff I filmed, but what's done is done. But just know that I know grammar sometimes. Hi and welcome to my very first wrap-up video. So today I want to talk about all the books that I read in January 2021, and there's like 10-ish of them, so I better get going. So I want to start off with one book that I did not finish, and that is The Bone Season by Samantha Shannon. This one I listened to as an audiobook, and to be honest, I bought this way back in 2016 or something, and I started back then, didn't get past the first chapter, and so this was just rotting away and I didn't take a look at it again. And so I was looking for a new audiobook because I just had finished another one, and I picked up this one, but I didn't get into it. I think the protagonist, I forgot her name, she was quite annoying. And then you had this different version of London, and then you had a different world, place, and aliens something. I think I got maybe halfway through it, but then I just couldn't take it anymore. I think this warden guy, who I think was going to be the love interest, it was just this kind of relationship where the guy is a billion years older and that much more experienced than the girl, and she was kind of liking him, but she was his prisoner. And also that society, it was also convoluted, and it didn't get me. It wasn't that interesting. So I've heard many good things about the series, and I thought that I would like it as well if I just gave it a chance. But after trying to get through this audiobook, no, I don't think that I would like it that much, because the setting doesn't appeal to me at all, and that's why I quit it. So the first book I finished this year was Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. This is the second book in the First Law trilogy. I was kind of in the mood for it, and I think I mentioned this in my books I read in 2020 video, that I think that the series is a very good audiobook for me to listen to, because it's very character driven and character focused, and so there's not that much plot to miss. So I tend to miss the plot details when I'm reading, when I'm not reading, when I'm listening to the audiobook a lot. Sometimes it depends on the book. But I think character-driven audiobooks are way better, because it's all about the interaction between the characters and the thoughts of the characters, and I feel like that isn't that hard to listen to as an audiobook if you're just, I don't know, kind of listening to something before you go to sleep. So I really like that book as well. I like the first one. To me, those books aren't that phenomenal. I like everyone. I really like the characters, and I enjoy reading or listening to about them. But I wouldn't count those books as like my top 10 books of all time, because for me, I'm missing the world building and the plot. There is plot there, but it's not that spectacular. So I enjoy listening to the audiobooks, but those are not the books that I am really super excited about. So another book that I finished this year, at the beginning, I think I started it at the beginning of the year, and it took me a while to get through. I was switching between the printed version and the audiobook, and that book is Gideon the Ninth by Tamsyn Muir. This one, I enjoyed the book. It's about, like the cover says, lesbian necromancers explore a haunted Gothic palace in space. And that sounded awesome. So I enjoyed it, I liked it. But in the beginning, there's like a billion new characters and new terms that you have to kind of remember what they're talking about. I think it took me a while to really understand what the plot was about, because there's like these nine houses, which all of them kind of have necromancers, but they differ in their field of work, so they all have different specialities, and so they all come to this place, Canaan House, I think, and they have to figure out some stuff, just kind of solve a riddle, because they want to become lictors. And in the beginning I didn't know what lictors were. I don't know if it wasn't explained probably, or if I was just listening to the audio at that time and didn't quite catch on, because I think the audiobook was quite confusing for me. Like I said, don't listen to audiobooks if you're trying to sleep and just want to catch the plot as well. So I think the book was so it felt much better to me when I was reading. After a while, I was able to just remember the characters and who they were. So for me it was really hard to remember who those characters, so which house they belonged to, what their speciality was, who they were, and it was really hard to get into for me. Also, I think I don't know why that surprised me, but spoiler, there's people dying in this book, and I think that surprised me. So I don't know why I was surprised that people died in a book about necromancers. Yeah, but it was a fun read. I want to continue the series at some point. I don't really have the urge to do it right now. The ending was good, so I have a good feeling for the second book. But I heard that this one is even more convoluted and complicated in the beginning, but that the latter half is really good. So I'm I'll see what this book is going to be like for me, but I will continue the series at some point in the future. The next book that I finished this last month is Jade City by Fonda. This is the first installment of the Greenbone saga. This takes place in like a kind of fantasy Hong Kong, where there's different clans who battle each other, and there's also those Greenbones who have supernatural abilities, but not everyone can be a Greenbone, so it's in your bloodline kind of. And it's about those clans. The focus is on the No Peak clan, and this is on the 3 grandchildren of the former head of the clan, Shay, Hilo, and Lan, and also their cousin Andon. And I really enjoyed this book, so I liked the setting a lot. I felt like it was really different, but so all the time I kind of pictured it as a TV series, so I could really see this getting an adaptation, because it would work so well. You wouldn't have to change much. It's just like it takes place in like 80s Hong Kong. They have television and phones, but not cell phones and stuff like that. No internet. So I really think that this could work. I enjoyed the book a lot. I think Hilo was probably my favorite character. He's the horn of the clan, which is like the brawler, he's the fighter, but he's also very emotional, but he has a soft spot, and I really enjoyed that character. So I'm really excited where the series goes. I think the 3rd one is coming out later this year. I ordered the 2nd one, Jade War, which hasn't arrived yet, so I'll be getting it at some point this month, I think, and then I assume I'll be reading on soon, because I really want to know where this is going, because the ending was cool, and just like I said, I really like the setting and the book, and it's a good read. So the next book I read is Lifestyles of Gods and Monsters by Emily Roberson. So this book, when I picked it up, I think it's like a YA romance fantasy, and the premise is kind of, it's like the Kardashians mixed with Greek mythology and also some Hunger Games thrown in. So the plot is that it's like Greek gods in the 21st century, so that there's cell phones and they're always looking for attention. So this family the book focuses on is, I think he's the king of Crete, and his daughters, and they're always surrounded by cameras because his two older daughters, they have this television show or net show, I think it's online, and their younger daughter, the protagonist, Ariadne, she doesn't really want to participate in that because she's like, yeah, no, thank you very much, bye. And there's also this tournament of the Labyrinth where 14 kids from Athens come over every year. This has been going on for 14 years, and they are sent into the labyrinth to fight the Minotaur. And each year they fail. So this has been going on for 14 years, and this is, I think it's the 14th year. Ariadne, she's the kind of the guide for those kids to the labyrinth. And so I'm kind of on the fence with this book because it's very fucked up. It's really weird. This constantly pandering to the cameras. It reminded me a lot of Hunger Games in that regard, only that it was not as good. But I was also wondering, I mean, Greek myths and legends, they're really messed up. And I was thinking if this author, if she's a genius and just knew that and she wanted the book to feel as messed up as those myths and legends. But I don't know. I think it wasn't really a good book. It was like a trashy, kind of trash read for me. I don't know if there's going to be a sequel because the ending is kind of, it's not, so it's kind of like an open end. But it could also be the end. And this doesn't say that it's part of a series, I think. I just don't think there's any indicator if there's going to be a second book. Yeah, but I don't know. It's just so weird. Kind of funny, but not worth your time, I think, if you're not totally into that. So, yeah, Lifestyle of Gods and Monsters. Another book I finished is Last Night at the Telegraph Club. I did a full review on that, so I won't be going into any detail. I really liked that book. It was a sweet romance between two girls set in the 1950s, San Francisco. So the main protagonist, she is a Chinese American and she falls in love with another girl, and together they kind of meet other women who are in love with women and learn more about this kind of culture surrounding them. And a really good book. I can only recommend it. So after I was done with, I listened. So I listened to Before They Are Hanged first, then I listened to The Bone Season, the end of that, and then I started listening to An Ember in the Ashes, which is the first in a YA series, which is kind of reminiscent about ancient Rome. So the book is about two young persons. The one is Elias, who's training to become a super soldier, and Laia, who kind of pretends to be a slave in the same school that he's training at, to kind of give the rebels in this country information. I really enjoyed this book. I'm not your typical YA reader. I kind of get tired of those silly romances a lot and of all those kind of stupid plot points that I sometimes notice in these books. But I really enjoyed that one. It felt like an adult tale. I liked the characters. I really enjoyed the relationship Elias had with his kind of comrade Helene, which is what they call her in the audiobook, and I was always wondering how her name was written, and it's like Helene, which in Germany would read as Helene. So I was never imagining her name written like that, and it was really weird. But anyway, so I really enjoyed the book. I want to continue on with the series. I think I'll be getting the next one as an audiobook as well, because it was it was a good audiobook. I enjoyed it. I kind of understood all that was going on, so I don't think that the series needs like a physical book for me to understand and follow. So yeah, I like this book. So the next book I finished is Cinderella is Dead by Kalynn Bayron, which I didn't like. I made a whole video on that one too, so if you want you can watch it. Let me just say that it's full of evil men and lesbians and stupid stuff. I didn't enjoy this. It was bad. I mean, I kind of enjoyed it, like in the same way I enjoyed Lifestyles of Gods and Monsters, but it was not a good book. So yeah. So the next book I picked up is The Silence of Bones by Jun-Hoo, which was not the Korean-inspired fantasy novel that I was expecting. Instead I got a crime YA novel about a young girl called Seol. I think that's her name, yeah. She's like a servant in the police headquarters in the capital of Josiah in the year 1800, and she's there because men aren't allowed to touch women in this period, and so they have those female servants around to just do an autopsy or move the corpses and stuff like that. And she gets so she is part of that investigation, which is about a young girl who dies, her nose is cut off, and somehow she's linked to Catholics, which are kind of forbidden at that point in time in Korea. So, but she has a kind of not foggy past, but there's things in her past that she has to kind of get straight in her head. And there's also this Inspector Han, who she grows close to, but then she doesn't, and it's really I enjoyed the book. I wanted to know what was going on. At first I wasn't really interested in the murder mystery, but I think it's not that loud of a book, so it takes a while to get going. But at some point I just wanted to know what was going on and how the book would end, because there's some things that are revealed later in the book that were really interesting, and so I was like, oh yeah, but where's this going? So I read to the end. I was satisfied by the ending, and I really enjoyed this book. I thought I was getting something different, but what I got was satisfying. And the last book I finished in this month is The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I talked about this in another video because I liked it so much that I had to talk about it. Yeah, if you want to know more about the book, check it out. I just want to say that it's about something like second chances and different paths your life could have taken. So in the end, I just want to talk about the books that I'm still reading that I didn't finish in January. First we got The Well of Ascension, the second in the Mistborn trilogy, the original trilogy. I started this in the beginning of January, so I didn't get that far. It's just, I don't know, I haven't felt like continuing at the moment, so I think I started yesterday getting into it again. But this is a reread, so I know these books, and I don't think it's that dramatic for me to not read them as fast. I remember when I first read them that it took me a while to get through the books as well, so I think that's kind of the way I like to read Mistborn, very slowly, taking forever. Yeah, but I still like the books very much. So in this reread, I just noticed that the second book was just full of talking. So I'm at page 404 now, and it's just so much talking and no action, little action. Yeah, but I still like the series, so I will finish this hopefully in February. So the next book I'm currently reading is The City of Brass, the first in the David Word trilogy. I read this one before a few years back. I was shocked to see how little I remembered about it. So it was kind of, it felt more like a first pickup than a reread to me. As you can see, I'm like 400 pages in, so there's a bit over 100 pages to go. I still enjoy the setting very much. But also this is one book which has, I feel like it has so many like names for everything, and it was hard for me to kind of sort all those things. For example, they use the word Deva and Jinn, and they're kind of the same, but then there's also the Deva clan, which is different from Deva in general, which are Jinn, and so but once you get that out of the way, I think it's a very good read. And so I ordered the second and the third book because I wanted to continue the series. And last night I got a mail from my bookstore that The Empire of Gold arrived, which is the third book. So not the one I was hoping for to get first, but yeah, this one looks very pretty. But I have to read the second one first before I can get into it. So I'm unfortunate. The third book I'm reading right now is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. I just noticed that I forgot to mention who wrote these books. This one is by S.A. Chakraborty, and the one of Ascension is of course by Brandon Sanderson. But back to Legendborn, I'm like 230 pages in, and like with City of Brass, this one has so many new words. There's science and pages and Legendborn and Shadowborn and no Mistborn, but every other born you can imagine. And I don't know. So this has been hyped to heaven, and to be honest, I don't feel it yet. Maybe that will change once we get this like entry section out of the way. So I don't like to read this angry protagonist, and I know that the protagonist of this book, Bree, she's kind of grieved because her mother died. But she's so unfriendly, and I don't like those unfriendly girls. I mean, I can understand where she's coming from, and it's alright, but those characters, they just annoy me most of the time. And yeah, so this isn't really my kind of book so far. I don't know if it will change, if I really love it in the end, but I don't know. Maybe I'll have to do a round review with this one, but maybe I love it. I don't know yet, because I'm still reading this. So I've got this kind of 4 bookmark rule, because I own 4 bookmarks that I use. So I can only read up to 4 books at a time. And I think the 4th bookmark will be going to Senlin Ascends, which arrived as well yesterday, tonight, today. I just picked it up today. And I'm really excited to read this, so I think I will start reading this today because I want to, and I've got 1 free bookmark, and I'm really excited for this book. And that's all the books that I read in January, which is a hard word to say, sorry. I hope you liked this video. If you did, good for you. If you didn't, I'm sorry. You're very welcome to leave a comment if you've read any of these books and want to chat about them, because some I finished, some I haven't. Yeah, well, whatever. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see each other again soon, hopefully.